Senator Tester.
Thank you, Chairman Casey. I want to talk about some timelines here to flesh out the way it used to be and the way it is now and why. And I'm going to direct my questions to you, Hannah. I understand that the challenge here, or the problem from my perspective, has been that there were regulations published almost 4 years ago, July 31st, 2020, that went into effect October 1 of 2020. You've been taking care of your husband for nearly 20 years. Can you tell me what it was like before those regulations went into effect?
Before the regulations went into effect, I felt supported, and I certainly felt like there was a mechanism within the VA where if I needed additional case management or support for Kelly's needs, I knew who to call and who to ask, and I had assurances that I would be able to navigate his care successfully. Once those regulations passed and we were dismissed from the caregiver program, as Senator Moran expressed, we feel like we're in a purgatory situation here where we just don't know what the next iteration of these regulations will look like.
So for further explanation, a regulation was put into effect October 1st of 2020. Nothing changed with your husband. His needs remained the same and potentially even got greater because they're getting older.
Correct.
And yet, you were removed from the program because of a reassessment?
That is correct.
And that reassessment was required by the new regulation?
Yes, that is correct.
And were you able to appeal that assessment?
Yes. We appealed, and we received a letter which basically stated that it was unnecessary to appeal because currently everything was on pause. The entire program was being put on pause to
And the
determine what
pause
to do.
wasn't pre-regulation, the pause was post-regulation.
Correct.
Okay. So tell me what that impact had on your family, the impact of losing that certainty that the caregiver program gave you before October 1 of 2020.
Right.
What impact did that have on your family? What impact did that have on you and your husband and your children?
Right. So basically it creates a large sense of uncertainty. What does the future look like? Because if this resource for all of these caregivers, including myself, is going away, what replaces it? I don't know. I don't have those answers. And so it becomes increasingly difficult to fathom how to meet Kelly's needs in the future.
Financially, what did it do to you?
So that would mean that I would lose the caregiver stipend, which means that a significant portion of our income is simply going away.
Thank you for that. And it is my understanding that the new regulations are there and just haven't been released. That's correct. I see a head nod. That's good enough. Thank you. I want to go over to you, Meredith. Appreciate your comment that we've got some really good bills that actually get things done and get hung up for because of politics of the day. You're spot on, and quite frankly, it ain't right. Good policy is good policy, regardless of political party and regardless of who's carrying it, and we ought to look at it from that standpoint. I want you to take a moment to summarize, because you are intimately familiar with the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act. And I want you to summarize and particularly highlight why this bill is so important for our nation's caregivers. And if you could refer it back to some of the challenges that Hannah just explained, that would be helpful.
Yes, sir. Just to be clear, you would prefer the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act and the package, or just the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act? Yes, sir.
Well,
yes, sir.
my mic works. Keep it simple.
The Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act, as I mentioned, has probably most importantly for the most severely injured and most ill is the provision on removal of the cap. And that is, I have caregivers who are watching right now, who are waiting every single day to ensure that they are able to get the services that they need in the home to keep the veterans that they care for in their home. Those are going to be the individuals who have long-term ALS, MS, severe traumatic brain injuries. And without the removal of that cap, to which everyone seems to agree, including the VA, that they will potentially have to move to a nursing home because that cap prevents them from getting the care and services inside their home. Also included in the legislation is the requirement that veteran-directed program be within every VA medical facility, because that program, in addition, can actually help to support a lot of those caregivers who may not qualify for PCAFC for one reason or another, because you are actually allowed to pay your family caregiver under that program. That is significantly helpful for those who care for an individual who have cognitive disabilities or mental health disabilities that at the moment may or may not qualify for PCAFC, and gives them the flexibility and control of who they're hiring in their home, because often veterans with those conditions don't want somebody who's unfamiliar in their home. And so you're able to hire a friend or family to do that. The other provisions in the legislation include mandating that the other programs within the VA that provide those care services, home health aides, home-based primary care, are mandated to stay within the VA, because while those are a little bit more widely available than veteran-directed, as we've seen with PCAFC, there is a concern if it's not legislated, it can be taken away.
Thank you very much for
Yes,
that
sir.
explanation, and I appreciate all of your testimonies.
Thank you, Chairman Tester. I'll turn